to everybody. Welcome aboard. I present to you my series on NieR Automata. I played this game a couple of years back, and I remember it having a resounding impact on me, but the more I think back to it, the more I realize that I do not really understand or remember what this game is about, what it was trying to say, what its meaning and message really was. So I wanted to make this series as a remedy to that problem. So this series will be split up into two parts. Think of the first one as a reminder for both myself and also perhaps you might have forgotten what it's about, so this will be mostly gameplay with commentary. Whereas the second part will be more as a more detailed analysis, as a kind of top-off to the entire series. A couple years back, even after finishing this game, I remember there being a kind of drought when it came to content on this game from a sort of analysis standpoint that I felt like you couldn't really find much regarding interpretations or any sort of clarification as to what is happening, what is going on. And with all that out of the way, I think we can begin.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the god who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him.
This is Command. Yorha Squadron, come in.
2B here. All units have penetrated the stratosphere. Autopilot systems green across the board.
This is Operator 6-0. All units confirmed.
We've passed the 50-kilometer threshold and are proceeding toward the target.
Understood. Once you reach their anti-air defenses, proceed to manual attack formation. Then destroy the Goliath-class unit by any means necessary, and gather what data you can.
Understood. 12H down. All units activate manual mode and rely on visuals to evade.
Already engaged. Free movement unlocked.
Origin point of long-range lasers confirmed. (11B) down. Our HO229 cancelers are ineffective.
Alert. Enemy unit sighted ahead.
Requesting permission to engage.
Permission granted.
So, the game starts off with a pretty existential question, that being, what is life? Is it just a cycle of living and dying? And is there a creator behind it? With the character also asking whether this creator is killable. We can also guess that by the names that the different units quote-unquote go by, that they don't refer to themselves as people but units, so either they are really militaristic, as we can see, or it's implied that they are not completely human. This ties into the name of the game being Automata, like automatic. So what we're looking at is robots, or as the game calls them later, androids. But then this also invites the question of where does their machinehood end, and if it's even present, where does their humanity begin? Because we could hear emotion when, in the face of death, we could hear fear, we could hear pain when they got shot down by that laser.
Captain, I think...
4B down. (2B) to Operator 6-0. All allied units down. The operation is compromised. Awaiting further orders.
Operator to 2B. We need you to rendezvous with Unit 9S and begin gathering data on the local terrain.
Understood.
Now, immediately the game's industrial sort of feeling starts to kick in as we see this structure, this refinery or possibly oil rig, which may or may not be connected to land. But it's not just in environment, but also in the characters. It has this sort of machine-like feeling where they're not being referred to by names, but instead by units and by models. And it's not just the characters that we see, the protagonists that go by this. We can also see this very clearly in the opponents we face, them being even less human resembling or sounding, as they are even more mechanical than we are. The environment that we pass through is also covered in a thick cloud, which could be fog, but it could just as well be smog, implying that if this is the Earth that we are supposed to know, then that implies the happening of some sort of disaster that caused this situation that we are even in the first place. The reason why we are seemingly fighting.
Standard comms systems activated. Initiate short battery control. Activating short-range attack gear. Alert. Large enemy group detected.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Now we see this human or creature built in the human image for the first time, and also hear her speak for the second time outside of the outro. We switch from a top-down shooter to a third-person style hack and slash. So, and throughout the whole flight sequence and throughout the game, we will notice that the character will keep switching angles, inviting the question of perspective that I will dive into later, as it is not completely relevant just yet. That changes also from a ranged game to from a shoot 'em up to a much more close quarter style, making the battle much more personal now, something more than just firing at enemies from a distance. Now we come into direct contact with the enemy.
Enemies destroyed.
Not quite.
We now move on from fighting small scrap bots with the occasional bigger bot to infrastructure, something more familiar to us, as what we can see is a repurposed boring machine, which suggests that whatever the force was that created the machines, or maybe the machines themselves, are intelligent enough to recognize the usability of already existing human infrastructure, and also have the know-how to be able to replace it and even weaponize it. We can also see a possible disparity in intelligence with the protagonistic androids, where we can see that the character that we are playing as either has better sensory abilities or some level of consciousness where she was able to kind of realize that it wasn't going to be everything with just that wave of robots, but that there was possibly even more coming, where just the pod kind of thought that that was the end of it and seems to more give an analysis of the situation rather than assess it in an empirical kind of way.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was dangerous, man. You're 2B, right? My name's 9S. I'm here to provide support.
Copy that.
So, was that big old buzzsaw the Goliath you came here to take out?
No, just another defensive system.
Oh. Well, I guess we have to find the target then, huh? I've got a flight unit, so I'll take a look around the perimeter.
All right. I'll work my way inside from the ground.
exit confirmed closed.
So open.
Negative. Nearby enemies are jamming our signal.
Nothing's ever easy.
You know, ma'am, I'm glad you're here.
Why?
Scanners like me mostly work alone. Scouting out enemy lines and all that, I don't usually get a partner. It's kind of fun.
Emotions are prohibited.
Sorry, ma'am.
And another thing, stop calling me ma'am.
Huh?
It's unnecessary.
All right, then. 2B it is.
So let's continue by analyzing these characters. So I'll start with 2B. She is very direct, very to the point. But at the same time, it almost comes off as arrogant, like when the pod made an analysis of the situation, just simply stating enemies present, she came off with a very annoyed tone, saying, yeah, I am aware of that. 9S, on the other hand, seems to be more true to human behavior, where in the way he speaks, he uses extra words. He doesn't necessarily say everything in the shortest possible way. He adds some sort of flavor to the language. He also comes off with some sense of anxiety or nervousness when he speaks. Whereas whenever Chubby asked him anything that he wasn't expecting, he started with a sort of stutter. Another thing to look at with these androids is the mimicry of human behavior. Where, for example, 9S did not say, my model is 9S, he said, my name is 9S. Which begs the question, is this mimicry of human behavior? Mimicry of how a human would talk? Or is there actual humanity behind this guise of a robot? One thing that stands out quite a bit that 2B said to 9S when he said that he finds this operation fun because they're working together was that emotions are prohibited, which tells me that they have this capability built in, the ability to feel. But whether it be by regulation or by their own will, they prohibit these emotions, maybe for the sake of efficiency. But that doesn't cancel out the fact that they have this trait present in their very nature.
This place sure is big.
I guess humans used to use it as a weapons factory, but now it's just crawling with machines. The enemy seems to have repurposed the facility to increase their overall machine production.
So if we don't destroy it, they'll just keep coming.
Here the game reaffirms the belief that this is human infrastructure repurposed. The Foundry also presents a weird contrast between the robots and the environment, where the robots are seen as cold, just working based on programming, being kind of ruthless. Whereas we see this facility, the heat of it, with the molten metal being a direct contrast to the coldness of the robot's nature. And another interesting question that the game presents was Chubby's aversion to being called ma'am, which I think can be interpreted in two possible ways. The first one being that she doesn't like it because it's mimicry of human behavior, which they might have been taught to not do, which would tie in directly to the emotional prohibition. On the other hand, this is also completely reversible, as referring to someone as sir or ma'am can also be seen as distancing because it's really formal. You cut out the person behind it and instead just look at their status, whereas a name is essentially a person's identity, and being able to acknowledge this identity is a way to bring people closer, which would bring contrast to 2B's character, where she has this guise of trying to limit any emotional ability, but at the same time trying to form a connection with this new ally, possibly even new friend of 2B's. So here you can see me doing some exploration and subsequently finding a secret area with some extra rewards. This, to me, is a nice parallel between the game and this series, because, like with any sort of art, when we take it for face value, we experience it, then we get the reward is the experience. But if we do a deeper dive and analysis of it, we search for more, then we also find more. We get a bigger reward, you could say. You could also see that there was a locked crate over there, also inviting backtracking.
Block 33 to Block 12, returns en route. Work Party B, proceed to Cafeteria 25.
What?
It's just accessing random, nonsensical data from the old world. There's no actual meaning behind anything machines do.
This, to me, is the first time the game actually explicitly mentions the question of meaning, where the game says that the robots are just accessing nonsensical logs here, just kind of mimicking, but that there's no actual meaning behind it, which begs the question, is there meaning behind what we're doing right now? And we would say yes, because we are given this mission, this objective, so there is obviously some meaning behind it, but that might change as we go on.
Alert. Bulletproof apparatus detected on enemies. Close-range combat is advised.
I know.
Here we see some more of 2B's confident / arrogant face bleed through, where she shrugs off what the pod recommends, just saying, I know. And also, interestingly, this is the first point where we can hear the actual vocals in the song that weren't there before. You can also notice that this is the third time we are fighting in a room like this. The first room that we fought in was a round room. We passed through an area, we got to another one, so it almost presents this kind of cyclical feeling to the level, which would tie into the opening monologue of 2B, where she says that the nature of the world is of a never-ending cycle of torment, which is life and death.
I surveyed the entire factory, but couldn't find anything resembling our target.
Maybe they, I don't know, moved it somewhere?
Is that?
You mean the birds? Yeah, there's more plants and animals here than there used to be. Probably because the environment's changed.
Now here we can finally see the rest of the environment that we're in, where we're not just on some kind of offshore facility, we're actually on land with the rest of the city being visible here. And we can also see that 2B expresses some more emotion, where she might be on Earth for the first time, and she might be seeing greenery for the first time, because she seems to express genuine surprise at the sight of birds and the lush greenery.
There should be another facility across that bridge. It's a bit of a hike, but should we check it out? It's not like Command to get a location wrong. I guess even they get bad intel from time to time, huh?
I wouldn't bet on that.
Alert. High-power jamming detected. No response from long-range communications.
Doesn't matter. I'll just take him out. is that?
Target enemy detected.
Here's a nice example of the developer betraying the player's trust by pointing towards one direction, having it be engulfed in fog. But really the player would want to be looking the other way to actually see the threat coming. And by having the implied route to be the opposite way of from where the threat was coming, the developer subverts the player's expectation and teaches the player to be more aware of his surroundings from here on out.
To me! What's your status?
This is the target. I'm going to destroy it.
Right. I'll provide support. Packing in. Boost!
9S! Nine
9S black box signal detected. No response to communications.
I'm going after him. Send a support request to command.
Negative. Communications have been jammed.
Nine S. To help 9S. I have to repair him. Pod, get me staunching gel and logic virus vaccines. Then access the—
Inadvisable. The subject's vital signs are too poor to attempt field repair in
Shut up!
current...
Just do what I say!
2B. Just go.
You shut up too.
We're soldiers. We take pride in our service.
HO-229 Flight Unit. Command 677 received. Usage rights transferred from 9S to 2B. Requesting acknowledgement.
Please.
All right.
here we saw 9S getting damaged and both of them expressing further emotion towards each other. And one thing that caught my attention was 9S said that they take pride in their service of being soldiers, so to me that suggests that certain emotions, like say patriotism towards humans and such, are allowed. And of course, more obviously, we can see 9S's mechanical body when he's damaged. We can see that that it's not human flesh, that it is cold machinery. But I think that still does leave the question on the table of whether we are seeing machines masquerading as humans or humans masquerading as machines. But anyway, as far as the commentary and analysis goes, this is the end of the video. The gameplay is left in for the sake of context for future episodes. And with that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.
Control of upper arm. Seized from enemy unit. Marking weak point. Got it.
Seize control system.
Affirmative. Infiltrating enemy subunit. Behavior table adjusted. Balance controls overridden. Enemy unit subjugation complete.
Just die already!
Talk about bringing the battle to them. Ought to be.
Contact command. Request assistance.
No. It doesn't look like that's going to be necessary.
Oh, great.
I don't imagine that this is going to end well. The black box. It's ready.
Right.
Requesting destruction of enemy hostiles via black box reaction.
Request accepted.
Doobie, it was an honor to fight with you. Truly.
The honor was mine.